Welcome back. We're in the final stretch, 5 days away from Election Day. Several states are already seeing record early voting, but the presidential election is not the only one to watch. Republicans are hoping to maintain their control of the House and flip the Senate as well. Polymarket now shows a 44% chance of a GOP sweep next week. The betting market has an 83% chance that Republicans flip the Senate and a 55% chance that Republicans keep control of the House and gain a few seats. Joining me now is Louisiana Congressman, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, great to talk with you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Maria. Glad to be with you.
How are you feeling about this election 5 days away? What are you expecting?
I'm very bullish, and this is based on my own experience and observation. I have been traveling the country nonstop. By the end of this week, Maria, I will have led campaign events in over 250 cities across 40 states. And what I'm seeing and have been seeing for many months now is the development of a demographic shift for this election. I think we're going to make history. I think we'll have a record number of Hispanic and Latino voters and Black and African-American voters and Jewish voters and union workers and all sorts of groups that have not traditionally been with the Republican Party, because everybody knows that we've got to make a change. And they know that their lives were better under the Trump administration the first time. I think they're going to give us a chance to fix all this.
Well, I mean, let me play devil's advocate for a second here, Mr. Speaker, because haven't we all heard this before? During the midterms, we thought we were going to see a red wave. Last election, we thought we were going to see another win, that it was so obvious that the policies on the right were better than the left, and yet it did not materialize.
No, it didn't, and there are a lot of reasons for that, and we could spend a whole segment unpacking what happened the last couple of cycles. But what I'll tell you is that this time really is different. I mean, people understand that there is a clear choice this time, that they've had a Trump administration. They remember what that was like, and now they've lived under a Harris and Biden administration, and the comparison is very stark. And so I think this election is going to be about record over rhetoric. I think people are looking at the reality of things. Kamala Harris is running a campaign totally on fantasy over fact, but the American people are smart, and they're not buying it. And her angry rhetoric and the way that they've closed this campaign says everything. That she's an empty suit. It's less than that, actually. She's actually a costume, not an empty suit. She's trying to pretend she's something she's not, but people are onto it. So, look, I think that filters all the way down the ballot. I think that the House candidates that we recruited are so credible, and they're out there, Maria, in all these candidate forums and town hall settings, and they're presenting answers to all the challenges facing the American people, and they're doing it with such credibility that I think that's going to carry the day. I'm convinced we're going to win the Senate and the White House and the House. We'll grow the majority, and we'll be able to turn this around.
And the rhetoric on the left has gotten worse. You're right. I mean, despite the 2 assassination attempts, we've got this rhetoric surrounding the election intensifying. President Biden calling Trump supporters garbage. Come on. During a Harris campaign event this week, now he's claiming that he was referring to the hateful rhetoric of Trump's Madison Square Garden rally as garbage. What I heard from people who were at that rally was everyone was really nice to one another, and it was a lot of love there. Trump spoke to reporters from a garbage truck yesterday, also wearing a garbage worker safety vest while speaking at the rally in Wisconsin. He really turned it into campaign gold. Vice President Kamala Harris recently called Trump a tyrant and a fascist, compared him to Hitler. Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, likened Trump's Madison Square Garden rally to a Nazi event, Mr. Speaker. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting to compare this to Hitler. I know you spoke at the rally. And before you took the stage, you and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell sent a joint statement urging Harris to tone it down, her anti-Trump rhetoric. Has she done so?
But no, she hasn't. In fact, they've amplified it even further. But that rhetoric is dangerous. It really is. This is not about the exchange of free speech. They've had 2 assassination attempts now on President Trump's life. We've all seen that because they've been calling him an enemy of the state, comparing him to, Hitler and Mussolini. It's so over the top, and it's got to stop. This should be a contest between ideas, between policies, not personalities. But I do love what President Trump has done. I mean, the garbage truck in Wisconsin was so epic, and everybody's talking about that. They will be all the way through. He flipped fries at McDonald's and set the all-time YouTube record for the video views in 24 hours. I mean, what he is saying and what he is doing is resonating with the people because it's authentic. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to reward him for that.
Yeah, that was incredible with the garbage truck. I agree. That was funny, and it was very clever to turn it into a campaign positive for him after Joe Biden called supporters such a terrible thing. But look, I want to get your take on policy, because let's say, hypothetically speaking, it all does end up the way you say and the way you're expecting, and you see a sweep or close to it. What policies do you believe will take precedent? What are your priorities should you have that opportunity?
Yes, listen, we're not going to waste a moment. We don't put the cart before the horse, so to speak, but we are going to be prepared to lead. So we have been preparing for that eventuality for more than a year. This is bicameral by design. The Senate Republicans, House Republicans will be working together on this, and it's a well-designed playbook. We'll begin to execute those plays on day one, a very aggressive first 100 days agenda. I mean, very simply, I've got a 2-hour slideshow presentation, Maria, but in 90 seconds, very simply, we'll address the top issues that the American people care about. We'll secure the border on day one with a President Trump executive order and then legislation to follow, and we will turn immediately to the economy. We can turn the engines of the free market back on. We know how to do it. Reduce regulations, extend the Trump-era tax cuts, and make sure that job creators, entrepreneurs, and risk takers are allowed to do what they do without having the government on their back. We cut red tape. That'll get us going again. Energy policy be the center of that as well. Lots of big plans. If we're in charge, we'll turn this around. We really will.
Well, we had spoken with Howard Lutnick about a lot of this, and certainly President Trump told me that he wants to give Elon Musk the position of Secretary of Cost Cutting. Okay. Are you going to work with Elon Musk to cut out fat of this government?
Yes, and I can't wait for that. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, they call it, it was Howard's idea, I think, and Elon is excited about it. I don't know how Elon Musk has time to do anything else, but he's one of the most efficient people there is on the planet. He's an innovator. And I do think that we could dramatically cut federal cost and the size and scope of the federal government. We know how to do it. We have a unique and once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do that. You know, the Supreme Court having overturned the Chevron doctrine and all that that means with regard to the regulatory state. Congress has an opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, to claw back our Article I authority. And I think President Trump is very serious about scaling down the regulatory state. I just think that's going to allow the economy to take off again, a pro-growth economy. We've done it before. This is not theoretical. We did it in the first Trump administration. We'll do it again, but I think we'll do it even bigger.
But now, you know, you've got a bigger issue around the border. 10 million plus. And is that the right number? Because one of your colleagues the other day came on this program and said it's much higher than 10 million. But let's say 10 million illegals coming into the country on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's watch. President Trump told me he's expecting to deport most of them. I mean, that can't happen overnight. How do you see that happening?
Yeah, there's a reality to this. And look, the number, I think, is north of 16 million illegals who have come across the border since Joe Biden took office, based on my visits to the border, my discussion with the people there in charge. It's real and serious. But look, about a quarter of those, about a little over 4 million, we know who they are, that they're dangerous persons. They've broken the law here. Some of them are incarcerated right now. Start with that group, deporting them, and that makes a big dent in the problem.
Mr. Speaker, Kamala Harris received nearly 80% positive coverage on broadcast evening news since July, according to a new study from the Media Research Center. This is incredible. Trump is the complete opposite. Trump has gotten 85% negative coverage on ABC, CBS, and NBC News' evening programs. You've accused CBS of editing an interview you did with Face the Nation, saying that they left out 5 minutes of a 15-minute interview. It's not just you. You are also accusing the Harris campaign of mischaracterizing your comments about Obamacare. They say that you and Trump are planning to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Do you want to clear up any confusion here and also give us your sense of whether or not the American people are getting the real story, if, in fact, we've got so much negative coverage around Trump and so much positive coverage around Harris?
Yeah, the media bias, they don't even hide anymore. It's just overt. I've done all the Sunday shows, the circuit for the last few weekends. And look, no matter what network I'm on, unless it's Fox News or Fox Business, everything we take, all the questions we're asked are totally off topic. They're spinning it as if they're paid operatives for the Democratic Party, and it's not a fair shake. People see right through that. That's why less than 30% of the American people now trust the mainstream media anymore, which is a problem in and of itself. And they're twisting our words. So yes, I was at one of these events in Pennsylvania a few days ago, and a question came up about Obamacare, and I answered it very specifically. I said the ACA, unfortunately, is deeply ingrained in our healthcare system now. Do we need further improvements? Absolutely. We need to expand quality of care, access to care, and obviously lower the cost of health care. And I started talking about that. Well, they took a clip out of context and said that I said we were promising to repeal Obamacare. That's just not what I said. It's actually the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And so that's just another example of what they have nothing to run on. They have no policies of their own in the Harris campaign and the Democrats running for House and Senate. And so they're spinning our words and they're attacking Donald Trump. That's their entire campaign. And that's why they haven't provided any answers. And that's why I think they're losing support in all these demographics.
Mr. Speaker, real quick on China. We've talked about the bad behavior of communist China and their efforts to overturn and overtake the United States as the #1 superpower. Do you support excluding U.S.-sanctioned Chinese companies and their subsidiaries from trading in or accessing our capital markets? I know this has been an issue. We did a whole documentary on it on Fox Nation, Underwriting the Enemy, because we've got all these Chinese stocks trading on U.S. exchanges. Yes or no? Is this something you had a whole week for China Week? What came out of that?
Yeah. No, look, I agree with any aggressive action that we can take to limit their involvement in our economy, because they do not have our best interest in mind, obviously. They're our #1 adversary. They're almost a peer-to-peer adversary, and I think we've got to take that very seriously. We have a select committee on China in the House, as you know. They've done a lot of great work. We have more work yet to do, and we have got to take China seriously as our greatest international threat. Next to the national debt, I think China is very close to that in terms of our top concern. It has to be.
Well, we keep hearing that from Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, and yet we're still trying to understand what's being done about it. So that's why I keep coming back to it. Mr. Speaker, it's great to talk with you. We appreciate your time, and we'll be watching your work for sure.